The terminally ill woman wrote her son a series of letters detailing everything he would experience in his life from the day he was born up until the day he turned 18. She then sealed them all away to be opened on his 18th birthday, and then something strange started to happen. The predictions she had made in those letters started coming true. But how could this be possible? And what were these predictions? Keep watching to find out. In 1964, a young couple named James and Elizabeth Harris had their first child, a baby boy they decided to name Michael. However, tragically, Elizabeth's health was not good. She was suffering from breast cancer, which had already spread to her bones. Doctors told the heartbroken parents that there was no hope. Elizabeth was going to die soon, and there was nothing they could do to help her. "I want my son to know about me even after I'm gone," Elizabeth said to her husband. "I have so much to say to him, so much to tell him about life." So Elizabeth did the only thing she could think of. She wrote a letter to her son, pouring her heart out onto paper, writing everything she knew, everything she wanted him to know, and everything she hoped he would do with his life. Then she put it in an envelope, addressed it to Michael, and marked it to be opened when he turned 18. Elizabeth then went back to bed, knowing she wouldn't be able to write more letters, but to her surprise, she didn't die. It was clear she wasn't getting better, but she also wasn't getting worse. Months passed and she actually ended up getting out of bed again. This time to write another letter to her son, picking up right where she left off. Once again, she detailed everything she wanted her son to know, then sealed it away, marking the next one to be opened at age 19. This continued for many months until Elizabeth had written a total of 21 letters. At this point, she was too weak to stand up, so she called over her husband. "James, please take these letters to the bank," she said. "Put them in my safety deposit box. I want them to stay here until my son is 18 years old. Please make sure he opens them in order. If anything happens to me before then, I want him to read them all on his 18th birthday." James nodded sadly, knowing exactly how serious the situation was. He took the letters, placed them in his wife's safety deposit box, and kissed her goodbye. A few weeks later, Elizabeth died peacefully in her sleep. James was devastated. He felt like he had lost the love of his life way too soon, but he knew he had to be strong now. He had to raise their son and make sure he grew up into a good man. And Elizabeth's final wish was that Michael would read all 21 letters on his 18th birthday. So that's exactly what James did. He raised Michael all by himself, instilling the values and beliefs Elizabeth had poured into those letters. And when Michael turned 18, his father took him to the bank and handed over the key to the safety deposit box. "Here we go," James said. "These are your mother's letters. Now open them all in order, just like she asked." Michael looked at the stack of envelopes and felt overwhelmed. He opened the first one and began reading his mother's words. In the first letter, Elizabeth explained to her unborn son everything she knew about the world, about the place they lived in, the people who lived there, and even some predictions about the future. As he continued reading, Michael felt closer to his mom than he ever had before, and he learned so much about the woman he called Mom. On the outside, Elizabeth was a normal housewife who loved cooking, gardening, and spending time with her family. But behind closed doors, she dreamed of traveling the world, learning new languages and cultures, and making a difference in the lives of others. In the letters, she shared all her hopes and dreams, along with her fears and concerns for the future. She also gave Michael advice on how to deal with different situations and how to be a good person in the world. As the day wore on, Michael continued reading his mother's letters. There were times when he laughed out loud, other times when he cried. But throughout it all, he felt a sense of connection to his mother that he had never felt before. And as he read each letter, he couldn't help but notice that some of them were describing things that were happening to him at that very moment. For example, in one of the letters, Elizabeth had written about a time when Michael would get into trouble at school for talking too much. And as he was reading that part of the letter, he realized that he had gotten suspended from school that very same week for doing exactly that. He had never told his mother this, so how did she know? Was she really writing these letters from the future? Michael continued reading, hoping to find an answer to this question, but all the letters contained were just advice, stories, and predictions about his life. Yet as he read through them, it seemed like his mother knew everything about his life, even though she had written them before he was even born. He started wondering if there was something more to these letters than just a mother's love. When he finished the last letter, Michael felt like he had just received a gift from his mother. He learned so much about her and he felt like he knew her better than anyone else. He also learned a lot about himself and his place in the world. In the final letter, Elizabeth had written about a time when Michael would meet someone who would change his life forever. He had dismissed it as just another one of his mother's predictions, but now he wasn't so sure. Could it be possible that his mother had written these letters from the future? If you're enjoying this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps us grow. In the following weeks, Michael couldn't stop thinking about his mother's letters. He reread them over and over again, trying to find any clues that could help him understand what was going on. He thought about the predictions she had made and wondered if they were really true or if they were just coincidences. One day, while he was going through his mother's belongings, he found a diary. He opened it up and started reading. And what he found shocked him. In the diary, Elizabeth had written about her plans for the future, including her plans to have more children. She had written about how she wanted to travel the world and learn new languages and cultures. But most shocking of all, she had written about her premonition that she would die young and leave her son to raise himself. She had written about how she had a dream that she was giving birth to Michael, but when she woke up, she realized that it was just a dream. But then she started to notice that she was pregnant. She wrote about how she was scared but excited to become a mother, and then she wrote about how she gave birth to Michael and how happy she was to finally hold her son in her arms. But then, as Michael continued reading, he noticed that his mother's handwriting started to change. It became more shaky and the words started to run together. And then he saw the date that she had written on the page. It was the day she had died, and the last entry in her diary read, "I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm losing control. I love Michael so much and I don't want to leave him. I don't want to die. Please God, help me." Michael felt a pang of sadness in his heart as he read his mother's final words. He couldn't imagine how scared and alone she must have felt in her final moments, but it also gave him a better understanding of the letters he had received. On his 18th birthday, they weren't just a mother's love letters. They were a lifeline from the past, a way for his mother to connect with him after she was gone. He realized that his mother had been trying to tell him something important, something that went beyond the predictions and advice she had given him. She had been trying to tell him that she loved him, that she was proud of him, and that she would always be with him in spirit. From that day on, Michael carried his mother's letters and diary with him everywhere he went. He read them whenever he felt lost or needed guidance, and he knew that his mother was always with him, even if he couldn't see her. He realized that her love for him was the most powerful force in the universe and that it was a love that would guide him for the rest of his life.